All right, what's going on, everybody? So, Turning Point USA can send out all of the cease and desist letters that they want. They can host as many Christian Zionist events disguised as spreading the gospel as they want. The reality is, they are finished. Perhaps this is stating the obvious, since the dynamic, having that it factor personality founder, Charlie Kirk, was assassinated. It's very difficult, and I'm not even sure it's possible for a political activist organization built around a one-in-one personality to survive long-term after losing someone like Charlie Kirk. Yes, they've been able to raise money in the wake of Charlie Kirk's death due to that emotional flood of empathy for Charlie and, yes, even Erika, at least initially. After all, this is a young mother who just lost her husband and provider. Everyone felt for her. That is until she immediately took the reins as CEO of Turning Point USA and began steering it in the direction that Charlie was fighting tooth and nail to keep it from. You see, Charlie Kirk had incredible pattern recognition and his finger on the pulse of the people. A Charlie Kirk Turning Point USA was a powerful force and a voice for the people. And I'm going to show you a clip of Charlie Kirk that has really shaped my perspective on this assassination case. It's a clip that I'm constantly referring back to. We'll compare that to now Erika, who, after taking the reins of Turning Point USA, has decided to take it in a certain direction featuring, well, herself. And that's just not going to do it, as you're about to see. Finally, Candace Owens exposed something extremely disturbing that a donor said to Charlie Kirk before he died. We'll start with that and we'll go from there. I'm Zach Costello.
But this is a real message. Andrew Kovac can confirm it's real. Erika Kirk can confirm it's real that Charlie Kirk received this. Let's read this, okay? All of the people that trusted you, Jews and Christians, including me, why would you platform anti-Semites like Candace and Tucker? There are many evangelical Christian Zionists who would never give these people the opportunity to spew their hatred. I'm one of them. You say people are accusing you of being an anti-Semite because you disagree with the Israeli government. Well, what is it exactly that you disagree with? You threatened Jews and Christians with your 30 million followers. Are you kidding? Be very careful, Charlie. You are in violation of the 9th commandment by bearing false witness against your brother Judah. When was the last time you read your Bible, Charlie? I'm coming to you as a believer. Genesis 12:3. Obadiah and many more prophets warn that those who curse Israel will be cursed. Your TPUSA Tampa event was a disaster. Michelle Bachmann was booed, and about 10% walked out on her when she talked about standing with Israel. You brag about how you convinced all these young voters to vote for Trump, but you can't convince them to stand with our Jewish brethren. This is not a joke, Charlie. I am coming to you as a sister in faith. You have accomplished so much by the hand of the Almighty, but he is going to lift his hand from you. Don't fall for Tucker, Candace, and the rest. The Jews are under attack. God warns us in the last days that he will wipe out the descendants of Edom because they stood by while their brothers, Jacob, Israel, was held in captivity and did nothing. Don't be counted among the Edomites. It will be to your peril, as well as the unfinished work God was going to do through you. Oh.
Yeah. What I find most disturbing about these text messages are these key points given what we know now and what I'm about to lay out for you here throughout this show. Notice, this donor targeted Charlie's platform, your 30 million followers. Be very careful, Charlie. That, first of all, is a threat. You violated a commandment and turned on Israel, and those who curse Israel shall be cursed. Another threat. But it's this last line that we're going to focus on. You brag about how you've convinced all of these young voters to vote for Trump, but you cannot convince them to stand with our Jewish brethren. You have accomplished so much by the hand of the Almighty, but he is going to lift his hand from you. I want to bring in this clip right now because this clip from Charlie on the Patrick Bet David podcast after Trump won the election, I covered this at the time, and this clip has been ingrained in my mind since Charlie was assassinated and in the discourse that has since followed. This donor knows how influential Charlie is because he did this. Listen.
Campaign strategy of which we helped execute on the ground in some of these states was that, guys, don't spend your time knocking on doors about a suburban soccer mom who's weighing her options. Instead, because that takes 9 contacts to try to get her. 9 points of contact on average. Conversations, discussions, and they could be 30 minutes on it. Instead, turning point, go spend your time in very Republican areas where there are non-registered or what we call disengaged voters. People that like Trump, like his worldview. For example, the bro vote, right? And so this is where we spent our time, and we harvested, not ballot harvested, but we harvested in a very, very powerful way. At Arizona State University, for example, we registered thousands of young men to vote in fraternities. And that was way easier than us going to try to win over swing voters. And we did a little bit of that, but generally the Trump campaign was brilliant because they threw the Republican consultant playbook out. The Republican consultant playbook was spend all your time on the middle, on those like middle 15% swing voters and go all in. Trump campaign said, why don't we just make our base bigger? Why don't we just make the people who love us the most? And so what they looked at was demographics. And they realized if we can make the electorate 3% more masculine, and by the way, they were so smart to do this. The Republican consultant playbook that Karl Rove basically authored was everything is about high propensity. So there's 2 types of voters, high propensity and low propensity voters. A high propensity voter is typically college educated, lives in the suburbs. You know, they watch Chris, they watch CNN. They have an income over $100,000 a year. They have 2 kids and a picket fence, and they go to soccer games and they don't commit crimes. You know, that type of demo, right? High propensity voters is where the Republican Party has always been focused. Okay, but Trump came in and he said, no. We're going to focus on low propensity voters. The welder, the electrician, the carpenter, the police officer, or the person that's just not registered to vote. Where I thought that Donald Trump was going to win, and I wasn't as confident as anybody else, okay, was when I started to see the voter registration surge across the country. In the summer before, this last summer, new people that were registering to vote were registering at a clip 3-1 versus Democrat. In Pennsylvania, for the first time ever, in Pennsylvania, for the first time ever, we had every county in Pennsylvania, we were out registering Democrats for the first time ever. Now, mind you, what Josh Shapiro did as governor of Pennsylvania is he put in a thing called motor voter, which means you automatically get registered to vote. They thought that was going to help Democrats.
When you get your license.
When you get your driver's license. It helped Republicans because of lower, think about who's not registered to vote. It's typically lower propensity voters. And PBD, here's the kicker. Where do these people get their information? Lower propensity voters get information on TikTok. They're not watching CNN. They're not sitting. You know why? These folks are darn tired by the time they get home. They're not turning on cable news. They're watching NFL football games. They're the ones that are not going to be able to quote to you, Marbury. They're not. By the way,
it's also this.
Yeah, it's also the phone. So what Donald Trump campaign did is they hacked the 2024 election, not in a way that people would think, where they said, wait a second, everyone has a supercomputer in the right-hand pocket. Why are we worried about what CNN is saying or MSNBC is saying? Why don't we win the information war? And then finally, the kicker. They said, why don't we go on the most ambitious, over-the-top, low-propensity voter communication strategy on Theo Von, Joe Rogan, Nelk Boys, Logan Paul, influencer strategies, right? And so what they said is there's this whole reservoir.
Freaking brilliant.
And the final kicker, my mandate at Turning Point was very simple. Charlie, turn Trump supporters into voters. And that's what we did.
So I want to get in the weeds of, kind of this political strategy stuff because this shows how dynamic and influential Charlie Kirk was. These details all matter. A Charlie Kirk-led Turning Point USA flipped a U.S. presidential election in the United States through incredible pattern recognition and having their finger on the pulse of young people. Charlie and Turning Point USA were the executors of this campaign strategy. They had proven to be the most powerful and influential force, organization, political activist company, organization in America. These were the stakes. That's why it's important that we talk about this. This is not some small power, small money organization. This was a big power, big money organization built on and steered by Charlie Kirk. Thanks only to Candace Owens, we would have never known about Charlie Kirk's shifting views on Israel in the final months of his life. We would have no idea about that Hampton summit, Josh Hammer, and the text messages of Charlie Kirk saying that because of the stereotypical behavior of Jewish donors, he had no choice but to leave the pro-Israel cause. We would have no idea that Charlie Kirk turned down Bibi Netanyahu to spread propaganda for Israel in the United States. Bibi must have hoped that Charlie would do for Israel what he had done for Trump. But Charlie said no. And then he received threats like these from the Zionist donor that we just read. You see, Bibi Netanyahu has said that social media is a weapon of modern warfare and that Israel has an existential threat or an existential must to win the propaganda war in America. It's an existential threat if they do not win the propaganda war. Well, what about when the most influential voice in America, capable of flipping a US presidential election, refuses, and in fact determines to take the organization that he built and was running in another direction? Just like last time, Candace released the text messages of Charlie Kirk saying that he was leaving the pro-Israel cause. They accused her of the messages being fake. They're saying the same about this Turning Point USA donor message. It's it's so bad. Basically, the message is so bad to Charlie Kirk, it must be fake. Candace put out this tweet in response to her presenting this donor threat to Charlie Kirk. The last month of Charlie's life consisted of Zionists routinely pressuring and threatening Charlie for his shifting views on Israel. Were it not for me and the general public, those very same Zionists would have successfully staged a hostile takeover of his legacy. It should disturb you that for the right price, Turning Point was seemingly willing to bury all of this and instead welcome the very same people who tormented him in the end and his platform. I should not have been the one to tell you about the Hamptons summit. I should not have been the one to tell you about Josh Hammer. I should not have been the one to tell you about this donor that she had just mentioned and read, or Bob Shulman, or the fact that Charlie texted multiple people the night before explicitly stating they are going to kill me. But I am the one. And I made to do this while consistently being attacked from those very people who purport to carry on his legacy. Okay, so what really irks me the most about Turning Point USA and makes me suspicious of the organization is that Charlie was having the life drained out of him by Zionist donors who were threatening and morally blackmailing him to get in line or else. They tried to buy him and he refused. Now, the Erika Kirk-led Turning Point USA is all in on the direction that Charlie was fighting so hard to keep it from. And it's not working out for them. I want to show you this. Look, so I pulled up the Turning Point USA YouTube channel and looky there, look who put her own YouTube channel on the Charlie Kirk channel. This was in the last 3 months. Erika Kirk YouTube channel started putting videos on the Charlie Kirk YouTube channel 3 months ago. So Erika is building her own platform on the Charlie Kirk platform. Okay. But the reason that I went here is because I wanted to go back and see what kind of views Charlie pulled versus what they're pulling now, because I noticed that, you know, a 5.64 million subscriber account should be doing way more views than they're doing. Look at Charlie. Charlie was pulling in views 2 million. You know, a bad video for Charlie was doing 100,000, maybe slightly less. I mean, guys who know YouTube, they know that it goes up and down. But again, hundreds of thousands of views, millions of views for Charlie Kirk on his Charlie Kirk show. And this is just here on YouTube. Now Charlie Kirk gets killed, and then you've got the supercalifragilisticexpialidocious Mikey McCoy in his video saying, you know, they murdered my friend. And then you've got the Erika Kirk video of her saying that she forgave Tyler Robinson, the lone wolf. But anyway, you know, and then it kind of started to tail off. But now bring it back to the present. We're looking at 8,000, 4,000. I mean, 5,000. This is crazy. These are crazy bad numbers for a YouTube account with 5.64 million subscribers. Like, this is crazy. Like, I have, 260 something thousand subscribers, and I do way more than this. But you know what's funny? I wanted to go back and see, when was the last time they did a video over 100,000 views? When was the last time they were able to pull over 100,000 views? You got to go back pretty far. It's about a month ago. It's around the time of December. And believe it or not, it's when they were talking about the Candace Owens assassination investigation. The last time that Turning Point USA, the Charlie Kirk channel without Charlie, was able to pull over 100,000 views was when they were talking about Candace Owens' investigation. I mean, if you go to the video before that, again, over 200,000 views on that one. But I mean, the reality is people don't care about what Andrew Colvett and Blake Neff have to say about politics. And you know who else just doesn't have that it factor, who has been trying for years and years and years to build up a platform and have influence, but just hasn't been able to? Erika Kirk. And this is why. Tell me what you notice about this from her Make Heaven Crowded tour. I haven't seen anybody mention this. Watch.
Videos that came in to that chat, awkwardly enough, was a clip of Rachel Maddow and Jimmy Kimmel. I can't even believe I'm saying their names in a church, but together. But it was interesting because he asked her the question, do you think these protests are helping? Personally, I do not. I think it's demonic. But I understood the sentiment of what she said. She was trying to explain the 3.5% rule. And she was basically saying that, in political science jargon, she was basically saying that when you have 3.5% of the population protesting peacefully, and you're in nonviolent protest mode, it is very hard for that to go unnoticed. And it's very hard for that to be tucked back in. It just kind of sparks.
Did you guys notice? Did you notice what it was? I saw somebody mention it here in the chat. Charisma. Did you catch it? It's boring. It's just boring as hell. Like, she even tried to comment on some politics, and it's just not dynamic. It's not captivating. It's a snooze fest. And this is a woman who has been trying for her entire life to make it somewhere in media, modeling, reality TV, fashion, nonprofit activism, and entrepreneurship, but couldn't quite build the platform on her own. So what does she do? It's very ironic that Erika Kirk accused others who have been critical of Turning Point USA and her management of it, riding Charlie Kirk's coattails to success. I noticed there's only one person who has attached their new YouTube channel to his and is now the CEO of the organization that he built from scratch. The fact of the matter is, this right here is just irreplaceable.
You know that you are part of the most exciting, diverse, powerful movement in the history of this country. And this movement is not about Republican or Democrat. This movement is not about conservative or liberal. And I think you're going to see that on display in a little bit, just maybe. This movement is about the citizens versus the oligarchs. This movement is about we the people versus the ruling class. This movement is about America versus the globalists. This movement is about all of us against them.
Yeah. These two things are not the same, right? These two things are not the same. And, I've been really wrestling with my issue here with Turning Point USA and Erika Kirk. I have a ton of respect for what Charlie Kirk built. I want to see his legacy and his life's work carried on. I just don't see those who are doing it right now doing it very effectively. They're taking the organization in a direction, like I said, that Charlie didn't want it to go. And none of them have that dynamic type of personality to attract people like Charlie Kirk was able to attract people. You know, my personal thought is instead of building the organization around Erika, they should have brought in someone else from the outside. I mean, no one, don't get me wrong, no one is going to be able to replace Charlie Kirk specifically, but they could have still been a powerful and influential conservative organization in America if they handled everything since Charlie Kirk was killed better. That's all I'll say. And that's all I've got for you guys today. I hope that you have a great weekend. I'm here on the East Coast. We're supposed to get pounded with a snow and ice storm this weekend. I saw some stuff on it. Stay safe. Fill up your bathtubs with water. Get some firewood, ice melt. Prepare yourself. They're saying that the amount of ice that we're going to get could affect the power grid and the water supply. So make sure you all stay safe if you're on the eastern half of the United States. I'm Zach Costello.